Haunches in on the circle is the fourth of the 4 variations of haunches in. So in the other videos we did haunches in and haunches out down the rail, and we've done haunches out on the circle, and now we're doing haunches in on the circle. And each one's a building block, builds on the next one. And they're usually a little bit more, each one's a little bit more challenging than the next. Depending on the horse, that might not be true, but usually that's the case. So I've got a cone set up here just to represent the center of my circle. So it gives me a bit of a reference point on where my circle is. And if you're really challenged with that, you could just set up 4 cones in a circle. That can even be a better gauge to help you of where your circle is. So when I have a center cone there, I just imagine I stay the same distance from that cone the whole time. And what I'm going to do is imagine a white line on the ground, and I'm going to try to keep my horse's nose and shoulder over that white line, and then I'm going to ask the hips to come in, the haunches to come in off of that line a little bit. So I'm first just going to walk along here, get my horse soft, follow that line, make sure that I'm on that line, and then I'm going to bring my outside leg back, slide it back, and ask the hips to come to the inside. Now the shoulders might want to come in a little too. If that's the case, I'm going to take both of my hands and slightly move them to the outside, just to keep the shoulders on the line. The neck, the nose, and the shoulders are going to pretty much stay on that line, and then you're just bringing the hip in a little bit more, and you're getting the crossover with the outside hind crossing over the inside hind. So there's a little bit more bend, or a little bit more bend, a little bit more angle than what the circle has. So the hind end's on a little bit smaller of a circle than the forehand is. And I'm using my hands and reins to keep the head, neck, and a little bit of the shoulders. My weight's part of keep controlling the shoulders, and my seat and legs are controlling the hips. So I ask the hind to come in. If the shoulders drop in or out, I can use my weight a little bit, and I can also use my hands. And I keep the bend with my reins, with my hands, and I ask the hind end to come off. Now, the haunches in on the circle, why it's the harder of the 4 variation is you're already on the circle, so you already have a bend, and now you're asking for them to come in even more, so it creates even a little bit more engagement of the hind end. So it's a little bit more of a challenge. If you're having trouble with, you can go back to your shoulder in or counter shoulder in. So if it's an angle issue, you're having trouble with the angle, what you might do is a counter shoulder in on the circle. And see if you can get the hip to come to the inside, get that crossover, and then as you're going along, slowly change the bend to the inside, keeping the angle. And if you forgot about the counter shoulder in, go back to the video on just counter shoulder in on the circle, and that'll help you, remind you of the counter shoulder in. Now if it's a bend issue, if you're having a hard time getting your horse to bend, which Nisa on the left here, that's her challenge, is bending through the body. So I might go into some shoulder in just to get the inside hind leg stepping up, get some crossover happening, and get some bend through her body going. And once I have the bend, I'm going to now, because their shoulders are in, I'm going to bring the shoulders back to the circle and ask the hip to come to the inside. So the bend stays the whole time and I'm changing the angle. Going from an inside, the shoulders are to the inside, bringing them back out onto the circle and asking the hip to come in off of that circle. So those are some variations, and then we can pick up and do this at the trot here too, and I'll just change directions. And you want to play with both directions. And I don't just come out here, like I didn't just come out here and start the video. I've been out here kind of warming her up, preparing her for this. And so you first get on your horse, you're not just going to go into some haunches in on the circle. Go do some of your preliminary work of your shoulder in work. So as we're trotting along, same thing. I get the circle, I get the line. I've got that line, so I keep her head, neck, and shoulders over that line. I slide my outside leg back, asking the hip to come in. Now, our weight on the circle is a little bit different. We tend to want to be into the direction of travel, but if I put too much weight there, it's going to cause the shoulders to fall in. So you're going to have to play with where your weight needs to be. So my intent with my weight is slightly into the direction of travel. But I don't go too much because then I'm going to cause the shoulders to fall in. So I really have to kind of use my weight to help the horse that I'm riding. And I just slide my outside leg back, and I'm keeping her in here for a little while. And that's just to kind of show you there. But you don't want to do that on your green horse, because you're going to start off, and if you get a couple steps, like, oh, thank you very much. And again, you can go back into, if you're having trouble getting it, try it from a shoulder in. A little bit of shoulder in, getting the bend, and then say, oh, and turn it into a haunches in. Or if you're having trouble with the angle, you can turn that into a counter shoulder in. And once you get the trot going pretty well, then try it at the canter. But don't go into the canter too early with it. You know, that's going to take some time developing the canter. So you first start off, just get a nice relaxed canter going. And then I'm going to bring my outside leg back to the, ask the hind to come to the inside. I control the shoulders with my weight, my hands. And it doesn't have to be a lot of bend here. I'm sorry, a lot of angle. The hind end doesn't have to come in a lot. So then I can let her go straight ahead. She's kind of getting some releases there, and then I'll ask again. She's like, no, I'll just slow down. So just help her along, get her soft, get her relaxed. Slide my outside leg back, ask the hind to come to the inside. Yeah. And that's going to eventually turn into, I can start taking my circle smaller and into some pirouettes. But that's kind of down the road. As you develop the haunches in on the canter circle, on the bigger circles, and you can slowly start making it a little smaller and a little smaller and developing that. And I'll just quickly go the other direction. Same thing. Is we get her soft, She kind of wants to brace a little bit in the departs. So I just keep setting her up, saying, no, no, stay soft here with me. Yeah, into the canter. And then we just ride a circle or two on the circle at the canter. Once she gets soft and doing well. And then I bring my outside leg back. Ask the hips to come in. Yeah. That's nice. And let her go forward. And again, if you need to get a little more bend, I could put her in a little bit of a shoulder in first. And then turn that into haunches in, keeping the bend. There. And let her go forward. Kind of stretch out there. And I don't know if you could see that, but as she was going, after a couple times of doing the haunches in, she started coming up more. She was much more underneath herself, and that's what the haunches in does, is it really helps to get the horse back onto the hind end, getting him to lift and into engage. But we have to get that bend through the body to really get that lift and that engagement, because with the haunches in, you're engaging both hind legs. Shoulder in, you're just engaging one, and that's why the haunches in is a little more difficult. And on the circle, it's even a little bit more difficult because they're having to come around on that circle on a little bit. It's almost like a big pirouette. So over time, you can make that circle smaller and smaller and smaller to the point of just walking around, or you can do a walk pirouette or your canter pirouette. That's your haunches in on the circle. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next video.